Hey everyone, welcome and welcome back to our ball players. Who've been here a long time. Some of you are brand new to the organization. Some of you are brand new to travel baseball. So tonight's scheduled for a 1 hour webinar, but we know it started pretty late in the evening, so we're going to keep it pretty short and succinct. Believe it or not, just talk a little bit about our approach to training and player development, and that kind of dovetails and gives a great opportunity to introduce or reintroduce the team at Blast Motion. Really excited that they're here with us tonight. We have Stephen and Josh from Blast Motion. Gary Russo might be joining us, but he just like moments ago, it might as well be, had his first child. So, and sure enough, there he is on cue.
What an entrance.
That was good, right?
Yeah.
Gary, that was a very dramatic entrance. I said, Gary's like minutes after having his first child. He might not join us tonight. We totally understand that. We're excited. Great to have Stephen and Josh. And as I'm saying that, you pop up on everybody's screen. So great entrance, Gary.
Thank you. I told the nursing staff at the NICU I had to be back for this. I said, this is the only customer I'd make sure I'm on this call at this point in my life. So you should feel special.
Dude, it's after 8 p.m. It's a weeknight. Not looking to have weepy eyes tonight in front of our entire travel organization. So let's not get too emotional and don't go sharing pictures of Leo Russo, even though every family on this call would much rather see Leo, your boy.
Right. Yes.
So let's jump right in.
I'll just tell your families, Mr. Baltimore has business a little backwards. He bought my wife and I dinner a few weeks ago. So that's the type of guy you play for. Our customers never buy us anything because they're our customers, and he bought my wife and I dinner and greatly appreciated. So thank you for that, Jordan.
Yeah. And listen, Gary, look, I'm going to share something that I hadn't planned on really talking about tonight. And I'll throw this up on the screen just so we can get started. Can everybody see it? Gary, you see the presentation up there?
Yep.
All right. I mean, look, you don't need to look at me. We just look at this. Look, the reality is now, I guess, full transparency. The respect and the attention and the care that we get from Blast Motion, look, I'll just say it is far more than we deserve. And what I mean by that is, look, we're an organization that, sure, we have thousands of players overall, but only, I think 90 some odd players are on Blast Motion for us across 9 teams. Okay. And in the grand scheme of life, I don't look at the financial statements for Blast Motion, but I'm pretty sure that we're not one of their largest organizations in the country. But when you already have two of their most important folks in the organization paying attention to us on what is starting to feel like it's a daily basis, I mean, really, there's not a day or two that goes by that there's not some great communication between Gary and Josh and me. And then a week ago, we get an email saying, hey, we're adding Stephen to the team. In their terms, in business terms, he's, responsible for client success. And we'll kind of talk about what that means tonight. We now have our own, and I'm going to steal your thunder here, Stephen. I'm sorry. We have somebody within Blast Motion and we talked about this. I said, look, we don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we're small, so on and so on. And he kind of shared it. And Stephen, I appreciate everything you said. And Gary and Josh, thanks for everything you've done for us for these few years. He said, it's not about the size of your organization because, you're not, in the grand scheme of things, you're not one of the largest organizations in the country. You are the largest of the small organizations, but the way you go about what you do is important to us. And it's so in line with what we do that don't worry about taking, Stephen, I think you said you want to be on calls with our players on a biweekly basis. And right. Conceptually, when you think about what Blast Motion has on their plate and what Stephen has on his in terms of responsibilities, to know that he wants to be with us every 2 weeks, making sure that every one of our players, it's not, look, we could very easily take an approach of, hey, the 10 or 20 players who work out the hardest, you're going to get better. And 10 or 20 of you are not going to work out that hard. So you're not going to get that much better. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. And we leave it up to you, right? The harder you work, the better you'll get. And that's how this works. That's how life works. And our approach for the last couple of years hasn't been that. And Blast Motion made a commitment to us, which sort of doubles down on that approach, which is, we care about each and every player. If you're not doing the work, we want to help you do it because we know you're here. We know you're here for a reason. We know as kids in New York, there's so many things that we have opportunity to do. We're so fortunate, right? There's a million things you could be doing every day, and you've chosen to be a part of this organization. We're going to give you every ounce of our energy and our passion and our dedication to you. All you need to do is pretty much show up and have fun. That's it. And, I'll get ahead of myself here. What makes baseball so difficult, everybody says what makes the sport so difficult is that it's a game of failure. A game of failure isn't necessarily difficult. That's not what makes it difficult. What makes it difficult is really two things. One, it's not that much fun when you're not very good, also known as a skill sport, right? No knock, but you could go play basketball, play soccer, go bowling, and just have a good time knocking around and having fun with your friends. You go play baseball and you're not very good at it. It's just not that much fun. It's actually scary, right? That makes it difficult. What also makes it difficult is the reason that we are so in love with what Blast does for us as instructors. It's that you can't control the outcome. And I'll explain what I mean. You could take your best swing of your life. You can hit the ball harder than you've ever hit it, ever. And some center fielder tracks it down in left center field, and you go back to the dugout, and by all measures of a box score and statistics, you're a failure. You lost that at bat. You're sitting on the bench for the next 10, 20, 30 minutes, waiting for your next at bat, hoping to get another shot at this. The next at bat, you come up, you take a check swing, it hits the handle of the bat, you break your wood bat, it dumps in over the first baseman's head, and you hustle to second base, and the box score says you had a double. That's backwards, right? You couldn't control those outcomes. You're now on second base safe with the worst swing of your life. The first at bat, you took the best swing of your life and you were out. That's what makes baseball so difficult. That's why we're so obsessed, and that's the right word, with Blast and the instruction we provide and all the other technology we use. But Blast is special because it gives every one of our kids an opportunity to do something that no other technology that we use gives them. The opportunity to go home, practice at home, work on exactly what it is we want, track your practice, see your performance in real time. No other piece of technology that we use can do that for us, and at a really low cost, right? It would be great if we went back to K-Motion right now, which, don't get me wrong, everybody who knows me knows that I am in love with it. Our staff loves it. Unless everybody's ready to spend, $6,000 or $7,000 today to have 3D motion analysis in their bedroom, that's not realistic. So for what, and look, I'm going to say it as well, while we're being transparent, for you to go ahead, knowing that we're in New York, to go ahead and discount every Blast sensor that goes to our players. I mean, I don't know if you guys even know this. We just passed it on to everybody, right? And said, yeah, it's $100 for a sensor. That's it, right? This is not retail. We're not a store. We want every player in our organization to be using this so you get better. So with that, let's kind of jump in. I'm only going to touch on a couple of things and then hand it over to the entire team at Blast. And again, guys, I mean, Gary, knowing that you've got a son that literally just showed up in the world, and guys, it's after everybody's bedtime at this point. For you to be here taking care of our players right from the get-go is amazing. So thank you. Also to our parents, thank you for allowing your kids to stay up late tonight, because that's pretty awesome. We're going to touch briefly, but importantly, on our goals and our philosophy, our priorities, and our approach to training and measuring and performing on the field. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about what we measure and what we don't want to measure. Right. And I kind of touched on that a little bit. Finally, I'm just going to touch a little bit on the resources that we're going to provide, both Blast Motion and New York Empire Baseball, and what we call the recipe for success, right? It comes down to the coaching and instruction that you're going to receive, and then the players and the families. And let's be honest, it does require a lot of, this is not lost on us. It requires a lot of dedication from families to be in a travel organization that affords the opportunity to be in the arena, to be on the field 2-3 times a week, and then go out, play doubleheaders, play tournaments. That's a lot for a family, especially when there are multiple children. We get that. So it requires dedication, not only from players, but from the families, but also very specific efforts around training. This is not show up when it's convenient. This is the best I could do. That's okay. But let's be honest, the more you, what's the saying? You get out what you put in. This is all going to be a perfect example of that. And then finally, before we introduce Blast Motion, it just happened a few minutes ago. There is an exam. It's not a joke. There is an exam after those 3 big bullet points before Gary and Josh and Steven share everything about Blast Motion. There is an exam for parents and players It's a 1-question exam, pass, fail. I'll just leave it at that. So look, some of you have heard our coaches, and look, you've heard our coaches say this. You've heard me say this over and over, right? New York Empire Baseball really does have 3 primary goals. The first one is to develop skills through baseball that will serve us on and off the field. And look, some of you have been privy to some of the things we call life lessons. Baseball is such a wonderful sort of metaphor for life. It's just so similar in so many ways, right? It's a team sport, but it requires individual performances. You can't pass in baseball. When the spotlight turns on, the challenge is there for you, and you don't know when that's going to happen. So you need to be ready all the time. And if that's not life, I don't know what is, right? The same as what we talked about earlier about controlling the outcomes and not controlling the outcomes, right? That's life. Sometimes the best you do winds up in failure, and you need to pick yourself back up and know that you did the right thing and go right back at it, right? The other thing we talk about, and you may have heard this, I know our players hear it all the time, is learning skills that scale, right? Gary, you and I have talked about this now for years. If we wanted to win baseball games, we'll talk about this a little later. If we wanted to win baseball games at 7U baseball, you know what we would do every at bat? We would never talk to blast motion, because every player on our team would bunt the entire game, because the likelihood of other 7-year-olds making errors on a bunt play is very, very high. And we'd be undefeated in whatever league we played in. And all of our kids would have high batting averages because they bunted, except when they get to 8U or 9U or 10U or 13U baseball, they wouldn't be playing baseball anymore. And I know that's an extreme example, and I'm being a little silly about that. But the reality is that translates to things like just make contact or just throw strikes, right? Is that really all you think our children are capable of doing? Is this recipe for mediocrity, right? Just make contact so you won't be embarrassed. Well, I'd be more embarrassed, if that's the right word, if I didn't go up there and swing my hardest and do my best. Although I took a half swing and laid the bat on the ball and just made contact and hit a 40 bouncer to the second baseman and got thrown out at first. And then everybody high fives me and says, hey, good contact. When in my heart and in my mind, I know it wasn't good contact. But if that's all I'm shooting for, that's going to be the best I ever get. And when the field turns to a 60-foot mound and 90-foot bases, I won't be playing baseball anymore. So skills that scale are skills that will grow and enable me and our players to play as the field gets bigger and as the competition gets more challenging. And that's what we want to develop. We want to develop character. We want to develop work ethic. We want to develop the understanding that hard work leads to success on average. Great process is more important than short-term outcome. And we want to do those things that will scale over time. Secondly, and our players hear this every day, what is the reason that we train and practice? It's to get better in the games. That's it. If you're really good at doing some drill that is meaningless, right? We set up cones, you run back and forth, it looks really cool, but it doesn't make you better in the games. It may have been fun, and that's good, but it's not making you better in the game. And that's the point of doing it. Okay. And like I said earlier, baseball's better when you're better at it. Okay. The third thing, and this is overlooked, and I've had conversations over the last 13 and a half years with some parents, the goal is to have fun. And I've had people tell us, well, if they're having fun, they're not being serious. Well, let's be honest. When you're immersed in something and you love it and you're having a blast doing it, you want to do more of it. And quite frankly, if you're not having fun playing baseball, even at the most competitive level, go do something else. Why would you choose to do something that's not fun? And the reality is, the more fun you have, it's very likely that you will get better at what it is you're doing because you want to do it all the time or as much as you possibly can. Right? So those are our 3 main foci all the time. Right? We talk about this a lot, right? The difference between output and outcome is very important, and maybe we're measuring the wrong one. Right? If we look at Game Changer or the box score or the scorebook in a 12 or 16 game season, or even in a day, I'm going to tell you, see, Gary's going to just start laughing out loud now. Last year, somebody said to one of our coaches, my son is in a slump. He had 1 hit in the last 7 at-bats. I don't understand how that's a slump, right? That was across, I think, 3 games because there were like 2 walks involved. And Chris just looked at me and said, I don't even know what to say. How it's so limited. The reality is that the box score in a short season and your stats and your batting average and your on base percentage against maybe kids who maybe you faced a kid who couldn't throw strikes. So your on base percentage goes up and you cheer for that. That's not scalable. It doesn't make you better. Right? So the thing that we should be measuring, and a dad came up to me and said, we need to throw away game changer. And instead, we should measure, Gary, you got to write this one down because this is, I think you and I touched on this once. We should have a stat and a way to track what percentage of your swings in a game are within 5 or 10% of your hardest swing ever. Because that will make you a better baseball player. That's all we should be tracking. How fast do you run? What percentage of your effort do you give? How many times did you laugh and smile on the field? How hard did you throw when you were pitching? How healthy are you as an athlete? Those are things that are worth measuring, not what was your batting average in the last 3 games, right? So that brings us to what skills should we train and what should we be measuring, right? The most fun I've ever seen players have in the arena is doing 2 things. One, when they're competing with their teammates to set personal records and outdo each other, not because they're elbowing each other in the eye and they want to be seen as the alpha dog, but how do I push my teammate? Because I'm going to now throw 61 miles an hour, and I'm referring to somebody very specific who I hope is on this call because he deserves it. And he knows who he is. He's 10 years old. He threw 61. You know what he said? I want somebody else on the team to throw 62 because then I will have to throw 63. I'm blown away. And last night, Monday night, he was training, and I kept asking every couple of pitches, are you getting tired? And when he finally said, hey, I'm starting to feel a little tired, we stopped. It wasn't, let's throw one more pitch to see if I could set a new personal record. It was, okay, let's move on. He's so responsible. He is 10 years old. I didn't teach him those things. He taught himself. That's what our organization would realize as success. Nearly 100 players should all take that approach and have that attitude. The other time that is the most fun place to be in the arena used to be on Thursday nights when our travel players would come in, get permission from their parents, and they would have live at bats. And they would compete with each other until the parents were texting us saying, where is my child? Why isn't he home yet? Do you realize he's 13 years old? It's now 9:40. Why is he still there? And we would take video and send to them. And they'd say, okay, got it. Send him home in an Uber. I want to make sure he gets home safely. Right? Personal records, live ABs. That's it. And we're having a blast. No pun intended. Okay, some pun intended. Look, I'm going to start wrapping up here. There's 2 pieces of this puzzle. What can we provide as an organization, and what do our players and families need to bring? For years, we've boiled it down to 3 words: coaching, content, and culture. Right? We're at a point now, we're now at 15 full-time coaches and instructors. We're about to bring on another that'll make us 16. We're bringing on 2 assistants, one in analytics and one in video work, so that we can become better coaches. All of our coaches are better trained today than they ever were in the history of our organization. This is all they do. We don't have people who are gig workers. We don't have guys who get here from their job. This is all we do. And I use that word again. It's amazing to see when we're training daily, and then we have a large training every Wednesday for our staff. Everyone has become obsessed with development, obsessed with every player individually and then collectively getting better at baseball because it's just fun for us, right? What a selfish thing to say. The coaches are having a blast watching the players get better and guiding them and being, somebody said, their Sherpa along the way, right? We don't make baseball players better. We give them an opportunity and we point them in the right direction. It's what they do with it, right? The other thing we can provide and hope that everyone understands and do everything we can is to provide a clear understanding of the concepts of process over outcome, right? What does that mean? It's not just make contact, right? It's not, oh, go get me a hit. How many times I've heard coaches say, go get me a hit. Well, if I said to one of our players, go get me a hit, and they hit that ball 300 feet and somebody caught it, they come back having failed because I set them up for failure. Instead, your children will tell you, our coaches will ask your children, are you swinging as hard as you can? You'll hear us say during a game, go play. Just go play. Because when your children just go play, they play their best. We also want everybody to understand the connection, the correlation between hard work and success. And what I said earlier about being immersed in what we do, coach and player immersion, just the sense of being so encompassed and so engrossed and really obsessed with what we do all the time will make us all better at what we do. It makes us better coaches and instructors, and it makes the players better at what they do, and they get to have more fun. And it was a buddy of mine at Driveline, all he ever says is players will have more fun, and fun is good. That's it. On the player side and on the family side, look, these 4 things are critical: dedication, understanding, commitment, and work ethic, right? And those sound like just big buzzwords. They're not. We get it. I said it earlier. There's a lot of dedication that's required. Sometimes it's not at all convenient. It's not going to necessarily be convenient. We do our best. We really do. We work hard with the parks department. We work hard on our schedule. We keep the arena empty, even on game days, just so if it rains, we can come back in and have a training day, not cancel a day. We do everything we can. But what we ask in return is that families really get, and I'm going to say it, that everything you do individually affects everyone else on your team. And quite frankly, everyone else in the organization, right? Deciding to skip something. And I get it. There are other priorities out there. If grandma's turning 97, your son should be there for her. Short of that, school comes first, family comes second. This should come next, right? Everybody here has made such a tremendous commitment, and we should all recognize that, right? The other thing that we need from our players is the understand they should be there with their team, and their work ethic is going to be paramount. What they put in is what they will get out. Knowing that we have all of these resources, the technology, the equipment, the coaching, it's all here. And if a player needs something, again, to hear Stephen from Blast say, I am here for each and every player. This is not, because I had said to him, I want you to continue training our coaches so that you don't have to be with 90 some odd players every 2 weeks. And he said, no, I don't agree. Yes, we'll train your coaches. Yes, they should be responsible for their teams and players. I mean, look, we're about to have 16 full-time coaches, all of whom are focused on all of our players, not just the players that they coach on a Saturday, right? We had one parent say, where is my coach? Their coach wasn't there because we were in COVID pods. Instead, there were 6 coaches there helping 9 players. We're so proud of that, right? To know that we have an entire organization, and now one of the leading organizations in the world dedicated to player development for us, is extraordinary. But here are the 3 things that go on in the season. We have our hitting and pitching practice, right? Whether it's BP or pitching going on, that's always indoors or almost always indoors. That's for specific instruction and skill acquisition. There's so much individual instruction that goes on in those practices. Don't miss them. The longer practice and the on-field practice when the season comes around is fielding and situational. That's learning game situations and developing as a team on the field, right? We ask the kids all the time, if you miss a practice, and let's say we work on double plays that day, and your child is not there, one child's not there, and the situation arises in the game, and that child or that player doesn't know what's going on, it affects the entire team. So that's why these shouldn't be missed ever. The season is so short and there's so much to learn. Finally, the games and tournaments. The truth is, that's what we're here for. The development so that we can go out and play and compete together. I could tell you one of the most selfish things that I've ever done is coach baseball. The joy that I get being there and watching our kids go out and develop on the field and compete together is extraordinary. It is so much fun to be there and watch them, right? I've never cared about, and our coaches don't care about our win-loss record. I know that's taboo to hear from some people. We just love seeing the players develop and grow together. Our favorite teams, and I know I'm not supposed to say it, but our favorite teams of the last 13 years aren't necessarily the ones that won the most tournaments and won the most championships. They're the ones that have this magical chemistry. And somebody said to me recently, I have to tell you something special. Said, every one of my children's classmates, their best friends are their other classmates. My child's best friends are their teammates on this team. For us as an organization, that's a definition of success. So before we get into Blast Motion, let's see if I can do this. Like I said, we have an exam, and here it is. It's player development exam, pass, fail. I'll read it out loud. which of these, can everybody see the poll? Gary, can you see it? Gary, you able to see the poll? Did we lose Gary?
I'm not. I'm
Oh.
not able to see it. We're not
Let
able
me
to
screen
see.
share again. Sorry.
Sorry, I was shaking my head.
Okay, is it up there now?
Hang on. No, I still can't see it.
All right, let's try this one more time. Sorry, folks. Share screen.
There you go.
Launch. Here we
You can
go.
see now.
Oh, now it should be up. Here we go.
Yep.
I'll read it out loud. Serious poll. Which of these will make your child, multiple choice, there can be more than one. Which of these will make your child a better baseball player? Training and practicing with maximum intent, having fun while training, using blast motion to accurately measure important swing qualities and tracking their progress, having a team of educated, well-trained, awesome coaches who genuinely care about every player. And the last one, having mom and dad shout, keep your eye on the ball and just make contact from behind the backstop. That should probably read, even after they were told to never be behind the backstop, ever. Never. There is one person who chose that, and we're tracking this, Gary. So there may be a family ejection at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I like. Now, how interesting is this? Hold on. The team of educated coaches is not coming in first. I'm sad. So, all seriousness, thank you. Look, the opportunity to just do this with everybody on a school night is really, it's just, I'm blown away, right? Where our organization is just so special, and it's because of everybody that's in it. And I mean that. If you had asked me, and Gary, you don't know this because we've only been together for a few years. If you'd asked me 13 years ago, is this what New York Empire Baseball would be, or is this what would be going on? In my wildest dreams, the answer is no. So I want to thank, your team at Blast, but also every one of our families, certainly in the travel ball part of our organization. It's become beyond special for all of us. And I know I speak on behalf of our entire coaching staff when I say that. And here are the results of our poll. I love it. Number one, having fun while training. Everyone paid attention to this. Although, Gary, 11 people actually did not say having fun will help. They might not have been paying attention. So with that, like I said, you all now should have your Blast sensor. Hopefully it's charged, but these guys are here to help with that. We don't have to solve all the world's problems tonight because, like I said, Stephen is here. Our entire coaching staff understands how to get this set up. If you're new to Blast Motion as a part of the organization, you should have gotten an email today. If you didn't, don't worry. Just send us a note, email empire@newyorkempire.baseball.org. We'll help you get it set up. We'll help you charge it. If you're having a problem with a sensor, just email us. And Stephen is magical. He will solve everything for us anytime. And if he doesn't, trust me when I tell you, Gary Russo and Josh Maurice will. So with that, Stephen, Josh, Gary, thank you for being here for us as an organization and for all of the families in it.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us here. The one thing I just want to know is who are the 28% of the folks that did not say using Blast Motion to accurately measure important swing qualities and track progress? I want to talk to all of you personally and just know what's up with that. But on a serious note, I mean, the reason I'm excited to be working with all of you and to be working with Jordan is really just tying into that last quote he was saying about, being more focused on development than winning and losing. Like, yes, winning and losing does matter. Yes, sometimes winning helps you develop. But, I know for a fact, talking to the Yankees' former pitching coordinator recently, that he said, working with pitchers in single A and high, even double A and triple A, he wasn't worried as much about their win-loss record or their ERA. He was worried about, what they were doing that was going to be scalable at the major league level. And, the same thing applies at every level of baseball. If you're 8, I've seen 8-year-olds hit 400, 500 that became great players. They played in high school, did well in high school, that actually outperformed other 8-year-olds that hit 300 and got drafted in the first round and things like that. So yes, those things do matter. Your batting average matters, winning matters, not more than having fun, not more than developing. And, that's what we're about here at Blast. And, my role at Blast, I was telling Jordan recently, is specifically to make sure you guys, as an organization, are using us in a way that allow you all to be successful. Jordan understands that, and that's why I'm excited to work with him and with all of you. And honestly, that's why I'm prepared to do more than what I'm required to do. I'm required to work with our teams to some extent, stay on top of them. I'm not required to do bi-weekly calls with everybody. That's something I'm going to want to do as long as I see that effort come from the top to the bottom. And that's why I'm extremely excited to be here. I never try to keep this short, so I'm not going to go into the details about the metrics and things like that. Really, when it comes to the nitty-gritty about, the metrics recapture, you'll learn that from your coaches. You'll learn that the more you use it, just through your natural knowledge as a player, as a parent of a player, even as a fan. I think you'll start to pick up on things that you'll see on TV the more you use Blast, and it's going to turn it into something really exciting for you. The number one thing I think as a player and as a parent that you're going to be responsible for is this little thing right here. This is going to be your charger, and I'm sure you already know that, but you're going to want to be responsible for knowing where that is and knowing that after every practice, after every day of doing training, anything like that, that your sensor is going to be placed back on that charger. And then whenever it's time for your son to show up at practice for training that next day, that they bring that thing charged and ready to go for practice. I always say a parent is never going to let their kid, especially if they're younger, show up at practice without their cleats or without their glove, without their bat. In my opinion, it's no different if you don't bring your sensor. And as you get older, if you're 13 or 14, yeah, every once in a while your parents might have to remind you that, but that's when you're to the age where you should be expected to be responsible to do that yourself as well. And one thing I talked to Jordan about is, like, we're going to have it built into the program where all of your coaches are going to see this data. You're going to see some of these swing characteristics, and it's not going to be this process where, oh, we're just going to chase the best numbers and we're going to make everyone swing the same way. And that's really not what Jordan's about. And to tell you the truth, it's not what Blast is about. What we're about is finding out what makes this player special, what makes them unique. What's something that they could do to make themselves even better? What's something they might need to do? Or what's something we can learn from their swing that they can do to give them an approach at the plate to succeed? That's something that's going to be scalable with them their whole lives. So, once we get that information from the coaches, that's when I'm going to come in, be able to work with each of those coaches individually, and then we can start assigning homework to the players. So for this plan and process to work, it's going to require buy-in from every player, from every parent, to know that whatever they do in a lesson or a practice and that feedback they get, if they just take that feedback, don't do anything with it for a week, then show up on Saturday in a game and they're thinking to themselves, all right, coach told me I need to get shorter to the ball because I'm getting jammed. They're going to be thinking about their swing in the box. They're not going to be ready to have any success. Whereas the other player who's taking those swings, doing that work on the, just the 3 or 4 days in between, those are the ones that are going to be able to step in the box during the game, and they're going to know all I have to do is execute. I have the swing. The swing's going to take care of itself because we've been working on it. And that's where you start to see players use Blast and become successful. At the major league level, everyone still has differences in their swing. There's some things they all do the same. Those are the things we mostly focus on. But even all of those players have things about their swing that vary. Some guys start a different way. Some players get through the ball in their own way, whatever it might be. They really just know how to make the most out of what they're good at and what makes them special. And that's what we're going to focus on here. So our goal early on is just going to be making sure we're on top of collecting those swings, make sure we're on top of, getting that baseline so we know where we're starting. And then once you know where you start, that's when you can track that development. If you're younger, it's good to know how much faster you're swinging. That eating well and taking care of yourself and showing up to practice and putting in an effort every day is going to make you stronger. And as you get older, you're going to start to find out about the little details of your swing that make you better as a player that's going not only when you're 13 and 14, but when you get older. So, yeah, I'm extremely excited about it. I could talk all day about Blast. I could talk all day about the metrics, about New York Empire, but that's pretty much my focus and my priority here.
So thanks so much. If anybody has any challenges, I mean, this is your opportunity, right? We've got a few minutes here. If you have a challenge, if you don't have a sensor, don't worry. Like I said, just go ahead and email us. Is there anybody, if you want to just raise your hand or throw it in the chat, is there anybody who you haven't been able to charge it, you're having a problem? You can either throw it in the chat now and we can walk through it. Remember, the login, for those of you, should have gotten an invitation today. Your login is your parents' email address. For those of you who have multiple children in the program, it's a separate email address for each child. So please, we can send it out to you if you have a question, but typically it's mom and dad's email, or maybe mom had 2 emails. But if you're not sure, if you have a question, just send us a note, right? Responsiveness. I mean, we have so many people watching this. Oh, great question already. Here we go. Question from one of our families: how do you practice home? There are 2 ways to do this, right? Some of the homework that Stephen just talked about, some of the homework is going to be swing related, where you're seeing it on Blast. Like, the truth is, and somebody said it last year, you could hit a pair of socks that you ball up and practice in apartment. If you don't have that ability, that's okay. You'll use it all the time in practice. And the drills that we'll assign are going to be movement-based drills that you don't even need your bat and blast if you can't swing at home. If you can, great. Take a tee, go down in the basement of the building, go outside when it's warm enough, and you jump right out and do it. So there are drills. I'm glad you asked that. There are drills. Part of the homework is going to be bat and blast related, and some of it's going to be movement-based. Some of it's going to be strength and mobility, right? But all of the things we do are built around, how do I become a better athlete, a healthier athlete, and a better baseball player? So great question. Some of the things are going to be bat and blast. Some of them are going to be athletic movement.
And the other thing I'd like to add to that too is, on top of some of the drills we recommend in our training center are just like with a PVC pipe or something simple like that aren't technically involving hitting a ball. On top of that, one of the things you can use Blast to do at home to make you better when you can't hit a home is knowing when you show up for a lesson or for practice that this is what my swing looked like 4 days ago when I last did a collection, and this is what I'm trying to work on. So that way you show up to practice with a plan rather than showing up to practice, working for 30 minutes, and then coach tells you something, and then you go, oh, okay, I'll remember that, and then you don't think about it until another week. So that's one way you can use Blast to get that work in, even when you can't physically do that work. On top of that, one thing you can do at home to make sure you're doing that work is simply the second you get home, you're going to have collected a bunch of swings on your sensor here. And then first thing you'll do, as I mentioned, is you're going to charge the sensor. So you'll just pop it off like this. Takes a couple seconds to pop off. You'll throw it on the charger. And then while you're charging it, that's always a good reminder to just get out your phone, open up your app. And then once you open up the Blast app, you can upload all of your swings to our cloud. So that way, everything that you've just done at practice is then saved. You can start to track the development that way. And that's something that gives you a chance to reflect on what you just did. So when you go home after practice, you're actually thinking about, okay, what did I do today? How am I going to use that to get myself better? And then on top of that, make sure you're prepared for the next time you're swinging.
That's awesome. Yes. So great question to clarify from someone here. For a blast motion, impact is required to get a reading on the swing. So that's why we said if you don't want to go hitting baseballs inside the house, bad idea. You can literally hit balled up socks with your bat with a blast sensor. Caleb, great question. Yours is hard to get on. Once you get it on the knob, you'll be all set. You have to stretch it a little bit if you want. When you come to practice, bring it in and we'll do it with you, and you'll be all set. It should be pretty tight when you first go putting it on. Of course, Caleb. Thank you.
I'll point out too, you can charge it while it's on the sensor. I just pop it like this, and then I just place it on the charger like that, and that can charge it. And then the other thing I try to be mindful of is when I do place it on the bat, that I really stick the sensor all the way in the cap, just because you want this little rubber or whatever this material is called, this little rubber part on the outside just to keep it protected. So when you get jammed on a fastball or something and that vibrates like crazy and it's a cold day, that you're not going to crack your sensor or anything like that.
Awesome. All right. Gary, Josh, I mean, you've been with us a while. You have anything to add? Is there anything you want to share? Anything for our players, families? If nobody has any other questions, I'm going to let these guys wrap it up. And I know, Gary, you might want to get back to Leo Russo right about now.
Yeah, no, I wanted to just
some milk.
Yeah, exactly. He's milk drunk. No, we've obviously have known Jordan over the years. We really appreciate the partnership. We work with every level of baseball, from professional, whether you're a Mets or a Yankees fan, we're agnostic. In the New York market, we like both of them. If they ever play in a Subway Series, we will pull for both of them. They're both customers. We work with top to bottom, professional all the way down to the youth level. There is a common theme that you see in professional baseball development. That's an obsession for developing their athletes. You all are fortunate to be in a program that's also obsessed with developing their athletes from the youth level up. The same way these organizations invest every ounce of energy they have into getting the maximum development return on their players possible, Mr. Baltimore does the same thing. So you all are in great hands. And as a very new father, I would hope that Leo has the opportunity to play for someone like that here in Nashville, or maybe Nashville Empire will become a thing in the next 5 years. Yeah, in the next 5 years. So I just wanted to say that we see a lot of development from the college pro side. The highest levels of baseball, you have to be obsessed with the game. You have to be obsessed with developing athletes. You all are in a great place for that, because Jordan definitely has that obsession. And that's why we're so excited to partner with you all.
Look, and it's interesting you said, and I appreciate that. And there's been a lot of focus on me tonight. And the reality is, I mean, we're 13 and a half years into this thing. And you know what, I'll share it. Almost 15 years ago, when I first started coaching baseball, somebody said, when are you going to start Baltimore baseball? And I said, never. And when I do, it won't be called Baltimore baseball, because then it'll never be bigger than me. And I mean, I'm here to tell you, I watch our coaching staff in action every day, and I'm blown away. The obsession is not mine. It's shared. We're so proud of the organization. Just excited to be around our coaches every day, from the banter that we share throughout the day to just all day and all night between Slack chats and text messages about individual players and what we can do to be helpful for them. And knowing that, there's at least, 8 or 9 guys involved in every conversation, weighing in, and all of our coaches just are endlessly curious about what we can do to do more. So really it's, I appreciate it, but it's certainly not about me anymore. I mean, what our team has put together and the drive that they have. I mean, I take my hat off to the team, because I'll tell you right now, I am surrounded by, I'll say it, we got the best coaching staff around, and I'm thrilled about it. So looks like there's one more question. I think Caleb should be a panelist. He's always a leader.
We need him on here.
Yeah.
Wow, we got a question from Nathan Sharafo's dad. What a great question. Like, this is insightful. How will the blast motion data influence how the athletes are coached, and at what age is there enough data? So Rob, that's a phenomenal question, because it's something that we think about and have thought about. And that was probably our very first conversation with Gary when we first got introduced to blast motion years ago. Wow. So our first foray into using blast motion actually informed how we train our players better, because we learned very quickly that our youngest players were fitting into 3 buckets of challenges, and it helped us to streamline the instruction that we do, right? On the one hand, and I know Coach Chris is on here, and he and I talk about this every day. It's not that there's one size fits all, because the reality is, look, there's not one right way to swing a baseball bat, because every child, every player is built differently. Strength and mobility characteristics are different, even at young ages. But there is one most efficient way for every individual athlete to swing a bat. And that being said, there are commonalities, even at the youngest age, of the things that we need to be teaching and teaching better and more focused on. And the reality is, Rob and everybody, when we started to really drill down on the things that were truly common and the drivers of success, our performance got better. And, not just because we saw it with Blast Motion. And again, it's funny, I said it earlier, it's one of my favorite technologies out there, particularly because it's the one that kids can go home with and use all the time when they practice. It's something that's relevant at any age, right? We don't use 3D motion analysis for our youngest players. We don't use Pitch AI, as much as I love that technology with markerless 3D motion analysis. We don't use that on 7, 8, 9-year-olds because it's almost useless, because the variations are different every rep. With bat sensor, knowing how accurate Blast has been and the data that it gives us, even at the youngest ages, it's game changing, right? It makes every practice better. It makes every rep better, knowing that it's being measured and tracked and it's being done accurately. So the reality is it informs everything. When we look at what a player should be working on, not every player needs identical work. Not every player needs identical development, and at different, parts of their career or year or season. So what it gives us an opportunity to do is hone in on what each individual player needs at any given moment in time. And we see that in real time. So it's incredible. Oh, wow. So Nolan's got another question here, or Dad's got another question. And I know the whole team will jump on this, but I'll take the lead, and Gary, jump in if you want. The three basic or sort of headline, I see Gary's ready for a daddy nap. The three most basic things that it looks are, we call it PCR, plane, connection, and rotation. Plane is the plane of your swing. It's the level of your swing and how long are you on that plane. And the longer you're on it, the more likely you are to hit the baseball in the first place. It's the easiest way to think of it, right? The ball is coming in at like -12 or -13 or -15 degrees. If your bat's going up at +12 or +13 degrees, and it's on that plane for as long as possible, as early as possible, the likelihood of hitting the ball, even if your timing is imperfect, is highest. That's it, right? Connection is a very, very interesting concept that I talk all the time about. One is early connection, and the next is connection at impact. Early connection, and this is going to get a little technical, so feel free to jump off or glaze over at this point if you're not up for it, because this is serious. And Gary and I talk about this all the time. It's actually, if I have a favorite metric from Blast, this is it, because it actually leads to success in the other metrics. The most efficient way, and again, Gary and Josh and Stephen, feel free to jump in. And the most efficient way to transfer energy from in a rotational sport and from your rotation into your bat, or any implement for that matter, is if the implement is, and the swing is perpendicular to the axis of rotation, in this case, approximated by your spine, right? Amazingly, Blast figured that out. They understand that, obviously. The other way to think of it is that you should be perpendicular to your shoulders. Blast looks at 2 points for connection that are critical that it displays. One is early connection. When you first begin your forward movement to the ball, your actual swing, your rotation of your torso, Blast looks at where was your bat relative to your spine. If it was at 90 degrees or really close, you are what we would consider efficient, right? Because if you're off of 90 degrees and your bat is tilted way up and you're tilted over, you have to first get the bat on plane so that you can be efficient. The earlier you're on plane and the earlier you are what we call it in Blast vocabulary, connected, the more efficient your energy transfer and your swing will be, and you will swing harder. All things equal, if you're connected early and more closely connected to 90 degrees, your swing will be better, defined by harder. That's it. Now, if you maintain that connection into impact, your swing will again have been efficient. And the point at which you hit the baseball is very likely to be the hardest point at which you can hit it, so long as your timing wasn't wrong. Okay. Rotation. This is a tough one for kids who eat organic dino nuggies. Rotation is how fast can you get your body and your bat rotating from little to no movement. And this is when we have to feed our kids more and have them do med ball workouts even if it destroys the walls. So that's why we built a plyo wall in the arena, so we don't destroy the walls while our kids are throwing med balls all afternoon. Because the reality is, and I know the blast team will tell you right now, before you even pick up a blast sensor, go pick up a med ball. Go eat healthy food, go get a full night's sleep, and throw med balls as if you're swinging a bat. And then I'm going to say it, you don't even need a blast sensor. The more med balls you throw, the harder you hit a baseball. It's that easy. So those are the basics. Those are the big three: plane, connection, and rotation. But there are so many more metrics like time to impact that we could actually, Stephen, if you're up for it, we'll schedule another call in a week or two and go over the blast screens for everybody who's interested, so we can take a deep dive if everybody's interested. We'll send it out. I'm certainly up for it, and I know you are, Stephen.
Yeah, I am. This is the stuff I get excited about. I could go into the metrics all day, and I'd get half of you excited, and the rest of you would fall asleep. But the reason I don't want to get too deep into it right now is because I always recommend that the first thing you do when you're hitting is that you're just collecting those swings and that you're getting yourself familiarized with things. Because then once you get comfortable with the app, how the app works, maybe some of the things that you score well at, the things that you score lower at, become familiar with you. Then you can start to ask, why is it like this? Why is it like that? And that's when we can start to deep dive and make it personal, rather than just, this is what the score is, this is what your swing should look like, because that's not really what we believe at Blast. So if you want to learn the metrics, the best way to do it, take a lot of swings with Blast, upload those swings, then watch video of yourself, because you can use video from within the app. Watch video of yourself, and then just start to realize, this is what my swing looks like, this is what it feels like. How is that different? Also, just to keep things simple, I like to think of plane as my contact ability. I like to think of connection as how consistent I can be. And I like to think of my rotation as how much power I can have. Some say that's oversimplifying it, but sometimes, simple is better. So that's how I like to look at it.
That's awesome. So it looks like we're out of questions. For those of you who had tech issues, we see it. Our whole team is on top of it right now. We'll get in touch with you in the next few minutes, and certainly by tomorrow morning to solve. It sounds like there was a defective cable somewhere, but we'll get it all solved and worked out so you have everything you need. Again, thank you all for being here. It looks like nearly the entire organization stayed on for this entire thing. I said we were going to be a half hour out of the hour, but if we keep getting questions from Nolan, I think we're good. We'll just stay here all night. I'm good with that. But really, thanks to the entire Blast team. Stephen, welcome to the team. This is incredible to have you here with us. Thanks to everybody for being here. If you have any questions, like I said, and I can't say it enough, just reach out. Got a team of what's going to be 16 coaches as of a week from now that obsessed with the development of every individual player in our organization. So again, thank you all. Have a great night. We will see you all in the arena this week.
Thanks, Jordan.
Appreciate it, Jordan.
And Sarah, thank you for
Jordan.
You're always one for positivity, and we appreciate that. Thanks, Sarah. You rock.
Thank you.